Is GameStop price gouging their Marvel Legends? NECA teases more 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures. Hasbro reveals a new Star Wars Vintage Collection troop transport vehicle. And Jazwares looking to bring AEW wrestling figures to the market. All that and more in today's news video. So let's jump into it. Yo, you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another TNI news video. Now we've got quite a bit of news to cover today, but just real quick, I want to let you guys know that yesterday my interview with David Vaughn went up. If you haven't checked that out, please do. At this time, only about 2,000 of you have watched the video, so honestly, that's kind of low for views. I hear a lot of you guys in the comments say you love these kind of videos with the interviews and stuff, but if you guys aren't going to watch, then it's hard to keep doing them for a variety of reasons. So, if you haven't already, please do check them out. If you like that kind of content, that's great. Pass the word, spread it around, let people know about it. And if you don't, or if for whatever reason you're not watching, let me know in the comment section, because I'd really be interested. I'd really actually be more interested to hear from those of you who are deciding not to watch it than those who have watched it, because again, I hear a lot of comments saying you like the interviews, but then when the views don't match, then it's like, in my mind, it's like, what's going on here? Is it YouTube? Is it the algorithm? Is it something about the videos you don't like? So let me know in the comments section below. And then also real quick, just my normal reminder, if you haven't already, please consider signing up for the TNI Newsletter. It's quick and easy, and as we get closer and closer to Toy Fair, more and more news comes out, and definitely it's just an easy way to keep track of everything. And I have a link to that sign up in the video description below. Okay, so let's get into the news, and first thing I wanted to share with you is something that many wrestling fans seem to be very interested in, and that is news that we broke yesterday that Jazwares is going to be doing some type of figures for the new AEW league. So this is kind of the newest competitor to the WWE, which I like to see, because I feel like when WWE gets some real competition, which they really haven't had in a long time, then it kind of makes them become a better, put out a better product essentially. So I haven't checked out the AEW myself. I mean, honestly, I don't watch a lot of wrestling these days, but I've been meaning to maybe check them out just to see what they're about. But it does look like Jazwares is going to be doing some type of figures. Now, I don't have any specific details. Now, you might not be familiar with this, but Jazwares actually, last year, they bought out the company Wicked Cool Toys, or maybe it was the year before, but pretty recently here, they bought out the company Wicked Cool Toys. Now, that company, the CEO of Wicked Cool Toys, which is now owned by Jazwares, is actually head up by a gentleman named Jeremy Padware. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. And he actually used to be at Jakks Pacific back in the day when they had the WWE license. And then Jeremy actually went to Mattel for a while. And so Jeremy's actually had a lot of dealings with wrestling figures in the past. And I don't know if he's going to be involved with these AEW figures. And I don't know if, again, I don't know exactly what kind of figures we're going to be getting from them. In the little blurb that they put out about this, they mentioned both Wicked Cool Toys and Jazwares to premiere its first line of toys and figures inspired by the AEW. So again, not a lot of details, but it does look like we're going to be getting some type of figure product from them in the near future, and those should be on display at Toy Fair. Now, whether they let us take pictures or what have you of that, I don't know. A lot of times Jazwares will have stuff that they show off, but they don't actually let you take pictures. So we'll just have to wait and see, but we'll probably get our first looks at these around the February 22nd timeframe, which is when Toy Fair kicks off. Cartoon Network this week announced the official premiere date for their new Thundercats Roar animated series, which is going to be February 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Now, a lot of old-time Thundercat fans seemingly have not been too fond of this cartoon and everything they've seen for it, but this definitely seems like it's geared for the younger kids. It's not something I plan on watching, but if the younger kids dig it, then I really don't care. But again, that is going to premiere on February 22nd on Cartoon Network. And then Super 7 yesterday revealed a pretty cool set for their reaction line, their 3 3/4 inch reaction line. It's for Robocop, and the set features ED-209, which is about 6 inches tall, and then also Mr. Kinney, who was the guy that ED-209 blew away in the first Robocop movie. He's a 3 3/4 inch figure. Again, this is part of the reaction line. Obviously, it's not 100% movie accurate. Kenny's got a big giant hole in his gut there where ED-209 shoots him, and he's got blood and everything. And again, not 100% movie accurate, but kind of cool. And this is available for pre-order now at places like our sponsor Big Bad Toy Store. It's due out later this year, and it's going to cost about $35. Toys just yesterday released these teaser images, which what appear to be essentially reissues of their 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures, maybe with some additional accessories like bandanas. They don't really specifically say what these are for. They basically ask the question of, how does one celebrate one of the best turtle movies ever done? It's the original 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 30th anniversary this year, and they posted these images along with that comment. So it's possible they may be re-releasing these figures with some additional, minor changes to them. That seems like the most likely bet, but again, I don't have any specific details, but just wanted to share these images with you guys. And they have teased that there's some big things coming for figures. Maybe even we'll be able to offer them, and have maybe hinted that they could maybe offer these someplace other than GameStop going forward. But again, those types of details should be coming later this month at Toy Fair. Now, while on the subject of GameStop, I just wanted to let you guys know, yesterday I started getting reports from readers about how GameStop had started charging $30 for just basic Marvel Legend action figures in both their physical stores and their website. And I did check the website. I haven't been in a physical GameStop in a while, but I did check their website. And in fact, things like the Fantastic Four wave and the new Spider-Man Demo Goblin wave are listed on the website now with $29.99 price tag. So it does look like GameStop is, for whatever reason, raising their prices significantly. GameStop has always been a little bit on the higher side, generally around $22, $23 as opposed to the normal $20. They are a smaller retailer than, like, say, a Walmart or Target. So, most people just kind of accepted that as just the price of doing business, being a smaller company and stuff. But going from $22, $23 to $30 is quite a big jump. Now, I did some checking because, I'd seen some people suggest that maybe an overall price hike is coming to Marvel Legends. And I did some checking with multiple sources that all indicate that's not the case. There was some talk when new tariffs were looking like we're going to be imposed on China that price hikes might be coming, but that didn't happen. Trump didn't impose those price hikes. And so as I understand it, there is no across the board for standard Marvel Legend figure price hike coming in the near immediate future. So this just seems like something GameStop is doing on their own. This isn't the first time that we've seen GameStop raise prices. I talked about how several weeks ago how word had come about that with their NECA movie turtle figures, how they had originally started selling them for taking pre-orders for them at $25, and then they raised the price on them to $30. And then basically NECA has come out and said that if you pre-ordered the figures when they were $25, they expected GameStop to honor that $25 price tag. So kind of seems like the same thing here. I don't think it's any secret that, in recent years, GameStop as an overall company has been struggling financially. They've had a lot of problems dealing with just the changing landscape of video games. That was their primary source of revenue, is selling video games and trading video games and all that. And of course, as more people do more streaming and such with the games, they just have less need for the physical copies. And so that's really hurt GameStop's overall business model. We've seen this happen many times before. We saw it happen with music stores. We've seen it happen with movie stores. So, this is really the same thing and kind of the same pattern. As they started to lose revenue with video games, they looked to things like collectibles and action figures to try and compensate for that loss. We saw that with, again, with music stores and movie stores. Really, that's kind of what ushered in the golden age of action figure collecting, was back in the day when there were so many music stores stores and movie stores and out there carrying all these action figures, that really allowed the adult collector action figure market to grow and prosper. But then, of course, that wasn't enough to really sustain those businesses, and they all ended up going out of business. Most of those places are no longer here with us. And I suspect, this is just my personal feeling, but GameStop will go the same way. I don't see that they're going to be able to turn themselves around. It's just it's not a matter, in my mind, it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. So but as it is, if you're worried, if you're seeing the $30 price tag at GameStop, it's not something that's going across the board. It is just something that GameStop seems to be doing, as I've been told from a couple different sources. So my advice would be, go find it for 20, those figures for $20. Don't pay $30 for them. I don't think that's really necessary. In other Marvel news, Hot Toys just today revealed that they're doing another Avengers Endgame Thanos figure for the 12-inch scale. Now this one is going to feature battle damage, so it's going to look like Thanos towards the end of the movie. He's got two different head sculpts. He has kind of just an open mouth, worried head sculpt, and he's got scrapes on his face. And then he's got more of an angry head sculpt. He has a removable helmet on the figure. He also comes with two versions of the Nano Gauntlet, one with the gems in it, which have lights in it that light up, and then one without, after Stark kind of slipped them out and everything. So they've given you two versions of that. You get multiple pairs of hands. You get a rock-based action figure stand, and he also has his double-edged sword. So if you're a fan of Thanos and you like him more beat up looking, then this might be one that you want to check out. If you already got the previous Thanos, I think that one was released, or if you have it on pre-order, I'm not sure if the previous Thanos has actually been released or not. I lose track. But if you have or are getting that previous Thanos, I don't know, with Hot Toys, it's hard to justify buying multiples of the same character, but there you go. But it was announced today, should be going up for pre-order pretty soon. As the last I checked, as I'm filming this, it wasn't available for pre-order at places like Big Bad Toy Store, but again, probably should be going up for pre-order within the next few days. Now, getting off subject of action figures for just a minute here, I also wanted to let you guys know who have been eagerly anticipating the upcoming Disney Plus Falcon and Winter Soldier series, which me personally, with it having US Agent and everything, this is probably the series I'm most excited for. Yesterday, Disney CEO Bob Iger held a phone call with investors where he revealed that series will be premiering later this year, coming in August. Didn't give it an actual day, but in August is when that series is expected to air. And then for the WandaVision series, that one is coming in December. Again, didn't give us a specific day, but that one is expected to premiere in basically at the end of the year. And then no word on the Loki series yet. That's the other one that's probably furthest along in production is the Loki series, but he did not give any kind of release date on that one. Now, for you Star Wars fans, they also announced the second season of The Mandalorian is going to be premiering in October. So, we've got less than a year away from that, which is cool. And they also hinted to the fact they stated basically for at least the next few years, Star Wars is primarily going to be focusing on television, not movies, probably because they've not had super success with the movies. But they are going to be focusing primarily on TV, and they said that some of the characters, might be seeing more characters in the Mandalorian TV series, and some of those characters might even be fleshed out for spin-off series. A lot of people seem to think that means Baby Yoda is going to get his own spin-off series. As popular as Baby Yoda is, I don't see how he can sustain his own series, but who knows? But definitely, some of the other characters that we see in that series may end up getting their own shows as well. We'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. Okay, and then other Star Wars news. Yesterday, Hasbro surprised us by revealing their vintage collection troop transport based on the Mandalorian TV series. Now, while this did briefly appear in one episode for a few seconds in the Mandalorian series, most of us who've been collecting Star Wars for a long time know this vehicle better as being one that Kenner released back in the day. It was actually not something that ever appeared in the movie, but Kenner went on and made it anyway, and was actually a very cool toy. One of my favorites as a kid because it had electronic sounds. You could push the buttons and you'd get various sound effects and voices from the movie. It held a lot of figures. You had these weird masks that you could could put on prisoners. I always called them brain control or mind control masks. But it was definitely a very cool toy. And then they did feature, the first time they actually featured the troop transport on any kind of cannon was in the Rebels animated series, and Hasbro did do a troop transport for the Rebels, but that was geared more for the kids. It wasn't as detailed. I mean, it wasn't a bad toy. It was actually not a bad toy at all, but it was geared more for the kids. It wasn't as detailed. It didn't have any electronics or anything. And now they're doing a vintage collection one. So definitely very cool. Now this one also does not have any electronics. I think it would have been really cool if they had added the electronics as a nod to the original Kenner one, but I'm sure that would have knocked the price up even more. This thing unfortunately is not cheap. It's going to be selling for $70. It holds a lot of figures, so it's got seats in the inside. The original toy just had a little spot in the inside that you could store really weapons. You can maybe cram in a couple figures in there, but it really wasn't made for holding figures. This one actually has detailed interior with seats. It'll hold 6 figures inside of it. And then you've got those outer clips that hold figures, so you can hold 6 figures on the outside. And then up in the driver area, it holds 2 additional figures. And again, very detailed. You've got the top that lifts off so you can pose your figures around inside. It's got the rotating top cannon, which all the versions have had. And just like I said, a very nicely detailed toy, and one of my favorites from the original Kenner line. So I'm definitely glad to see Hasbro is issuing a vintage collection version of this. But again, it is not cheap. It is $70. It does have the Kenner-like packaging as well, even though it doesn't look like the original actual troop transport Kenner packaging. They've changed the images and stuff, but it does have that vintage style packaging with it. But again, $70 is a hefty price tag, and honestly, if you caught my interview with David Vaughn, and kind of a little additional plug here, we talk about the 3 3/4 inch Marvel Universe line, which was a great action figure line. It was a favorite of mine. I mean, I love 6-inch, I love both scales, but I love, the 3 3/4 inch as well. And Dave talks about, how you can do so many more things with 3 3/4 inch. You can have big giant Sentinels that actually seem more in scale, things like that. And I agree with Dave 100%, but the problem with a detailed 3 3/4 inch line these days is the cost. That's why you don't see companies putting a lot of effort into this scale, regardless of how many times, I have people always coming up, is Hasbro going to bring back Marvel Universe? Are we going to see Marvel Universe? Are we going to get 3 3/4 inch figures? And my response is, well, I don't know for sure. My guess is probably not. And the reason being that a detailed articulated 3 3/4 inch action figure today in today's market costs you around $15, and that's only $5 less than the larger, more detailed 6-inch action figure. And because adult collectors, they don't have the money or space, a lot of them don't have the money and space to do vehicles. That's really was the driving force behind these original 3 3/4 inch lines like Star Wars and G.I. Joe and stuff. It was the vehicles. The vehicles and playsets were every bit as important as the figures themselves. But that's just, in today's toy market, is not the case. A lot of kids and adult collectors alike shy away from the more expensive vehicles and playsets and stuff. And so you no longer have a whole lot of vehicles and stuff to go with the 3 3/4 inch. You have more expensive figures, and they just don't sell. And already with this troop transport, which I think is awesome, I'm so glad to see them doing it. All I've seen from people is, oh, I'm not going to pay $70 for it, or I'll just wait until it goes on discount. And it may very well go on discount. And from the consumer standpoint, I don't blame you 100%, because yeah, $70 is an expensive toy. There's no doubt about it. It would hurt my wallet right now if I had to go out and plop down $70 for this toy. In fact, I would have to think twice. This is just the reality of this hobby. You either have to be prepared to pay the high prices, and I think eventually this is going to happen with 6-inch. We're looking at the 3 3/4 inch scale collectors, but these prices, even with just inflation alone, these prices are only going to go up. While, I talked about before that there isn't a price increase looking like is coming to Marvel Legends right now, eventually I would almost guarantee there will be some type of price increase. Eventually, the norm probably will become $25 and then maybe $30. So, and I understand, again, as these things get more expensive, how it's harder for people to collect these and justify paying the cost. And I do feel like there's definitely a strong possibility that eventually these companies are just, no matter how justified these costs are, they're going to price themselves out of the market. I feel like that's exactly what has happened to the comic book industry. It's why it struggles so much. It's because people are just, no matter how much, Marvel and DC can justify why they charge $5 a copy for an issue, people just aren't going to pay that on a regular basis for a large range of titles. It's just way too expensive. If I collected comics like I did when I was in my teenage years at $5 a pop, I mean, there's just no way I would have been able to afford it. It was bad enough back then, and it's just not doable now. So I feel like the same thing is started to happen with the toy industry, and as time goes on, that's only going to get worse. And that's really something that you guys, and myself included, are going to have to ask ourselves. Is this a hobby that I want to keep doing? If I'm, and if I am, then I think I just have to accept that these prices aren't going to go down, they're going to go up. And if the only way the prices are going to go down is if the quality drops. That's why you get these lesser, 5 points of articulated action figure lines, or like Spin Master with their DC figures. And I don't think those are bad figures, the new 4-inch Spin Master figures. I think they're actually pretty good, but they're not as detailed as the old Marvel Universe figures. And the reason why is because they had to cut quality to keep the price down. And those aren't super cheap. I mean, they still cost in the neighborhood of $7 or $8, I think. So like I said, this is just the reality of this hobby. And you sitting there, and I'm not addressing any one person because this is just based on comments that I read generally throughout message boards, Facebook groups, here in the comment sections, things like that. So again, I'm not singling any one person out, but if you're going to keep in this hobby, I think you really need to accept the fact that it's an expensive hobby. And if you want the quality, if you want the detail, if you want the articulation, you're not going to get all that without the hefty price tag, especially with the smaller scale stuff. And that's just the reality of where we are today. So, and in my view, I do feel like that means this hobby, this demographic, will continue to shrink because, like I said, eventually these companies, I think, are just going to price themselves out of the market. It doesn't matter how justifiable the prices are. The fact is people are just not going to be able to keep plopping down these large sums of money. There'll be a few. There'll always be some, who will pay, 40, 50, even more, $80 for a 6-inch action figure. There definitely will be those people, but we're talking about numbers, and I feel like as the prices go up, the numbers of people actively in this hobby will continue to shrink. So that's just my feeling, and honestly, it's not terribly encouraging, but that's really just how I kind of see things are heading. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have for you today. Again, if you haven't already, please do check out my recent interview yesterday with David Vaughn. But there it is. I've gone on enough today, but again, share your thoughts down below, and until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.
Hey, thanks for watching today's video, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so alerted every time I upload a new video. And be sure to head over to the Toy News International and Marvelous News message boards communities. It's a great place to talk toys and win cool contests like $100 store credits to Big Bad Toy Store. And remember, action figures are great.